Debt used to be a four-letter word, and now it's just a word. I know some people are like, well, it's still, yeah, technically still four letters. But I mean, it used to be a four-letter word. You go back far enough in time, and you told people that you were borrowing money to buy a house. And I thought, well, that's kind of strange, because people live with their parents for a long time until they had enough money to buy a house. But at least they said, you know what, it's an appreciating asset, not a big deal. Fast forward a few more decades, and you told people that you were borrowing money to buy a car, a depreciating asset, and they looked at you like you had two heads. Today, if you tell someone that you don't carry a balance on your credit card, you're the weird one. My contention is we need to start hating debt again. And I was thinking about my personal health a couple years ago, and I had an aha moment, and it was this. I saw on the American Heart Association website that the average heart will beat 2.5 billion times in someone's lifetime. Now, if you want to get fit, everyone knows what you have to do, right? I know what I have to do. I have to eat a clean, balanced diet, and I have to go to the gym a couple times a week. If I do that, I'm going to be in better shape. But I don't have buy-in to that. Until I saw this number. I thought, you know what? There's a finite number of beats in this little ticker. And then I did some more surfing, which is a really dangerous thing when you have a lot of time. And I found this calculator, and it allowed you to input your resting heart rate, your current age, and based on 2.5 billion heartbeats in your lifetime, it'll tell you the day that you're going to die. And I thought to myself, wow, this had an effect on me. And I thought, I need to lower my resting heart rate. How do you do that? You eat clean, balanced diet, and you go to the gym. Same conclusion, but it took a perspective shift before I said, okay, now I get it. Now I have buy-in. And because of that, I changed my habits. Right? Same conclusion, change my habits, required a change in perspective. So I'm thinking, as a neuroscientist, which is half biology and half psychology, let's apply this to money. All right? So I said, all right, well, let's start by looking at the total amount of income someone earns over their working career. So I'm going to show you some charts and numbers, because I'm a numbers guy. But you don't have to memorize any of this stuff. It's all big picture. So this chart here is looking at an 18-year-old couple. They're both earning $25,000 after tax, and I'm projecting their income to grow by 4% per year. And when you do that, what you'll find is, by the time they turn 65, the traditional retirement age, their after-tax annual income is going to be just under $316,000. And a lot of people are thinking, wow, that's quite an increase over their career, making $25,000 each until their household income combined is $316,000. But whenever you're talking about long-term anything to do with long-term with money, you have to factor in inflation. And here's how you understand inflation. Ask anyone who's over 65 what they paid for their first house versus what they paid for their last car. So I asked my dad this. I said, hey, Pop, what did you pay for your first house and what year did you buy it in? And he said it was 1973 and it was $34,000. And it wasn't a shack. I said, well, I know what you paid for your last car. His last 8 cars have been all over $34,000. But that's the power of inflation. So now let's adjust our chart for inflation. And I'm just going to use a 3% number. Again, these numbers, these assumptions, not important. It's all big picture stuff. So now their salary goes at 4%, but inflation is 3%. What that means is that they have a real increase of 1% in terms of purchasing power. So by the time they turn 65, that $316,000 is only just under $80,000. So this is much more realistic. This is all now in today's dollars. So when you add that all up, this couple has a lifetime earning potential of $3 million. 2.5 billion heartbeats, that's a lot of potential. What do you do with that time? $3 million in lifetime income. Where does it all go? Reflect on this statement. You don't borrow money from a bank. You borrow it from yourself. Okay, so I know people are probably thinking, well, yeah, actually you do borrow money from the bank. And that is technically true. But really, you're borrowing your future income, right? So let's go back to our couple. They're 18 years old. And they've decided that, after paying for housing and rent or what have you, eating out, partying, etc., there's not a lot of money left over at the end of the month or year. But they do know that they need a $35,000 car, because that's prudent for an 18-year-old today. So they go into the bank and they say, listen, we need a loan. And the bank will say, not a problem, that's what we do. We'll make you a deal. We'll allow you to access your future income in exchange for a fee, and that fee is interest. So that's all you're doing, is you're accessing your future income when you are borrowing money. The problem is, the money that you borrow costs you more then, for example, a $35,000 car, it's going to cost you more than $35,000, right? So, does the $35,000 car cost $35,000? Absolutely not. Now, it used to be that a 5-year auto loan was pretty standard. But today, when you walk onto a car dealership, they'll ask you two things. Which car do you want the most? And how much are you looking to spend per month? Based on those two variables, they will then tell you how long the loan needs to be in order for you to drive off the lot with that car. And so instead of a 5-year auto loan being standard, if you go onto a vehicle manufacturer's website and they have those little monthly payment calculators, you can now pick 6, 7, 8-year loans. And we're seeing more and more of that, even though interest rates have been falling, right? It doesn't make any sense. So let's say that you take a 7-year auto loan. This $35,000 car is going to cost you about $43,000 after paying for the interest. Had you saved up for it ahead of time, it would only cost you $34,000 because you'd earn about $1,000 in interest. So that one car, that $35,000 car, is either $34,000 or it's $43,000. That is a $9,000 difference for the exact same car. The average person will own 9 cars over their lifetime, and if you have 2 drivers in your household, that's 18 cars. 18 cars times $9,000 is $162,000 in interest that you are paying by constantly financing vehicles. That is 4.6 more cars you could have had. You need to think of borrowing money today as negotiating a pay cut with your future self. Because that's exactly what you're doing, and you are going to one day be your future self, and you're not going to be very happy. Now, the question I always get after making this analysis and showing people why they need to hate paying interest is, all right, wise guy, how do you go from financing a $35,000 car, which might take 7 years today, to saving up for that $35,000 car, which, assuming the same monthly payment that you're making, if you then put it into a savings account, would take you about 5.5 years. It's basically 13.5 years between cars. How do you make that work? How does that happen? Any guesses? Better maintenance, I just heard? Possibly. Exactly. You shouldn't be looking at a $35,000 car. Right? And the fact that that was not top of mind for a lot of people tells us about our perspective about financing. We think in terms of monthly payments. And when we do that, we don't understand that the more you save, the more you can ultimately spend. Could have had 10.6 more cars. We need to start hating debt again. Thank you very much.